did you want to share your tip and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi guys, Joel Alpert from MarketPower. I presenting something unusual for me. I don't think I've ever presented this quite this way. And it's about branding, but it's really about all things marketing. So let me explain. When we think about branding, we could be thinking about branding for our clients, for our own businesses, for any kind of community project that we might be involved with. That has a huge impact on the organizations that we work with. We take that branding, we move it into, I know you know this, but I'm just articulating it. We move that into things like websites and collateral and sales sheets and logos and taglines that help position and engage our audience. We do all that stuff, but we can often make a mistake. That branding is part of a continuum of things that we do, and it shouldn't really be only about branding per se. It really should be about looking at the overall view of the company, of the customer, and see how we can really impact them, not just to do stuff, but really to do stuff that works. So if we're doing that, what if we are being smart marketers and we are telling the client what to do, and that's a little off? What if that's a little off? So the compass point is not calibrated, we're not quite true north. It really can change the business in a lot of ways, just in terms of how they present themselves, how they sell their products and services, what their products and services really are. So we're all smart, and that's our problem. We go in knowing. And I want to suggest that we want to be a little bit ignorant. Ignorant not as in idiots and not being stupid, but being ignorant by not knowing. So I'll give you a couple examples of how this impacted just two clients real quick. One was a management consulting firm that specialized in lean tactics. They are international. They are focused on manufacturing, and they had been in business for many years. International concern. There's consultants all over the world that take this into small to medium company, actually some large companies too, all around the world. So they're great, and they focus on consulting, and they're very venerable company. They're really very good at what they do, and they also do training. I had spoken to the CEO of this company, and he had said no at one point to hiring me because he said for weeks he had it down to two, and he was very frustrated about knowing, like, who am I going to hire? It's either me or this woman in Chicago who was also good, and he wound up picking her because she had the Six Sigma experience. I was talking a little bit about this in the networking before. So I go, great, I like the guy, and he promised to be in touch, and he did. Just before COVID, he got in touch and said, I hate my brand, I hate my marketing, let's do lunch. So we met. This is the last meeting that I had before COVID. It was down at Pond City Market, and we had a lovely lunch, and people were masking up, and people were getting weird. I shouldn't say weird because I think we got to all be careful, but it was just a weird time that was just brewing. And he just showed me all his stuff, and he showed me what he didn't like, and I'm listening to him, and I'm trying to figure out what he doesn't like. So not knowing really can rate. So I have this great visual aid, this high tech. I want to have the solution, and I don't know. There's a discrepancy between these 2 points. Okay, the thing that we do all the time is we resolve that discrepancy all the time. We're always doing that because we want to be smart. We want to give the client a solution to the problem. So we focus on our goal, we say we know the answer, or we say we can't change things, that's another answer. But any of those answers will resolve that tension of not knowing. Now I know, so I'm smart, great. That can really be a problem. And incidentally, this comes from the work of Robert Fritz, a guy who I studied with for many years. So I'm working with this guy, I'm having lunch with him, I'm listening to him, I've did a couple of follow-up sessions, and I noticed something that, take two. I'm working with him, and we're developing the brand identity, and we're a fair amount along in developing the brand identity of selling this lean tactics management and manufacturing oriented consulting company, and we're doing pretty good. It's going great. But I noticed something that's very strange. I noticed that every time he talks about his clients, his face gets angry, and he's really, really kind of annoyed with his clients. And why aren't they doing what he said they're doing? And what's wrong with these people? Okay, I'm noticing that. I'm going, that's kind of weird. It's what he does. And then he constantly is interrupting our calls by saying, Joel, I got this woman on the phone, and I coached her, 2 years ago, and she's coming back to me. I got to talk to her. Can I call you back, please? Yeah. So I noticed that he loved the coaching part and would stop anything and give the shirt off his back to anybody just to do the coaching, but hated the consulting. So I just noticed that, and I at first I wrote it off by saying, you got to do stuff in life that's not fun, and and if you don't like the coaching, that's life, but that's what you do. And then I said, wait a second, is that really what you do? So we started exploring that, and in checking that out with him, I said to him at one point, do you want to consider doing something very different? And I'm not going to do it in this call. I want you to come into a new call, fresh call, really thinking about your business differently. And I presented a case about why he could do the training part of his business as a lead to the consulting. Because if he trained people, people would understand him, and then they would implement his stuff, which was his big concern. And he just shut up. He was flummoxed. I don't use that word often. So I was glad that he was taking it seriously. And that's what we wound up doing. We wound up using that approach. And now the business is focused on training, and he also does consulting. And he does it with folks who love his stuff because they've already been trained by him, and they recognize him as, the guru on the mountaintop, and they like him, they love him, he's trained them, whether they're executives or managers in these manufacturing companies. And so that's an example of really repositioning a whole business based on really not knowing where it's absolutely going to go and really staying receptive to it. The other one, real quick, is a wild oat herbicide called Avenge that I worked on. And, I don't really know anything about agricultural chemicals. I grew up in Brooklyn. We have the fertile ground that we grow stuff on is concrete. And it's just like another world to me. And I'm looking at this freshly. So the client came to us and said, we're going to phase this product out. I think she said by the end of the year. And this is a last-ditch effort to save our asses. Okay, great. So we looked at everything from a fresh viewpoint, and they were selling this product as a really good agricultural chemical.
Beep, beep. Keep going, I'm just saying.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. So instead of positioning this as an agricultural chemical, we really looked at how do they work with it. And they work with it because the best thing about this product was not what they were saying. It's that it mixes with other chemicals. Now think about this for a second, guys. You're a grower. You're plowing your fields. Why is mixing with other chemicals, a good idea? It's funny you should ask that question. I have the answer to that. It's because they can make less passes on the field, less time, less money. It costs money to run a tractor and these big machines. So the bottom line is that we position this as a product that mixes with other products. The tagline was the low-cost solution, and we did a whole different kind of marketing that had ever been done before, highly targeted stuff, and revolutionized that product. We got a 28% gain in market share that year from repositioning that product. That's crazy. I've never had that kind of result, and it was sort of like beginner's luck. But it was based on looking at it freshly and not knowing.
That is great, Joel. I love it. preach that too, where I think marketers need a seat at the executive level, you know, changing the business. Like, it's because we can't go out and just promote something if it's not great.
Yeah.
I've had to have those awkward conversations with CEOs like, you're not doing anything new. We're not going to get any coverage if you're not doing anything new. So what can we do that's new? And we figure it out. You can't. You don't get exposure if you're.
Yep.
That's great. Who has a question for Joel?
Joel, for the gentleman that was the Six Sigma consultant, how did you approach that differently, and what did you learn by going through that process with him that you would do moving forward?
So I have a strategic process that I use that I learned from a guy named Robert Fritz, and he's brilliant. I think he's the smartest guy on the planet, and of course I'm prejudiced. And I use his process. But one of the things that we do, it's very holistic and visually oriented consultant. And I kept on remember this kind of face whenever he talked about his consulting gigs, and his angelic happy ass face when he was talking about his coaching. And I really paid attention to that. And that's where the access point was, because I'm going, wait a second, he keeps on doing this. What's up with that? And it really had to do with him not liking the process and being able to substitute a process that was better, that actually served his business interests. He's actually selling more consulting now that he's selling it to the folks he's training first. And he's only been doing this for 6 months or so, 7 months, something like that, maybe a little longer. It was we're 15 months into COVID, something like that. We did much of this at the 4 or 5 month mark into COVID.
That's amazing. That's so great. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Such good ideas. Appreciate